Our selection today, Been in the Storm So Long. I've been in the storm so long. I've been in the storm so long, yeah. I've been in the storm so long. Oh, give me a little time to pray. Let me tell you, mama, how I've come along. Oh, give me a little time to pray. With the hung down head and an aching heart. Oh, give me a little time to pray. When I get to Zion, I'll take my seat. Whoa. Give me a little time to pray. I'm gonna cast my crown at Yahshua's feet. Oh, give me time to pray. Yeah. Oh yeah, to pray.
The oracles of the UCI, 1 Peter chapter 4, verses 7 through 11. But the end of all things is at hand. Be you therefore sober, and watch unto prayer. And above all things have fervent love among yourselves, for love shall cover the multitude of sins. Use hospitality one to another without grudging. As every man has received the gift, even so minister the same one to another, as good stewards of the manifold grace of Elohim. If any man speak, let him speak as the oracles of Elohim. If any man minister, let him do it as of the ability which Elohim gives, that Elohim in all things may be glorified through Yahshua HaMashiach, to whom be praise and dominion forever and ever. Amen. Ephesians chapter 4, verses 29 through chapter 5 and verse 4. Let no corrupt communication proceed out of your mouth, but that which is good to the use of edifying, that it may minister grace unto the hearers. And grieve not the Holy Spirit of Elohim, whereby you are sealed until the day of redemption. Let all bitterness and wrath and anger and clamor and evil speaking be put away from you with all malice. And be you kind one to another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, even as Elohim for Yahshua's sake has forgiven you. Be you therefore followers of Elohim, as dear children, and walk in love, as the Mashiach also have loved us, and has given himself for us an offering and sacrifice to Elohim for a sweet-smelling savor. But fornication and all uncleanness or covetousness, let it not be once named among you as becomes saints. Neither filthiness, nor foolish talking, nor jesting, which are not convenient, but rather given of thanks. Ecclesiastes chapter 5, verses 1 and 2. Keep your foot when you go to the house of Elohim, and be more ready to hear than to give the sacrifice of fools, for they consider not that they do evil. Be not rash with your mouth, and let not your heart be hasty to utter anything before Elohim. For Elohim is in heaven, and you upon earth. Therefore, let your words be few. Exodus chapter 23, verses 20 and 21. Behold, I send an angel before you to keep you in the way, and to bring you into the place which I have prepared. Beware of him and obey his voice. Provoke him not, for he will not pardon your transgressions, for my name is in him. Revelations chapter 3, verses 20 through 22. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If any man hear my voice and open the door, I will come into him and will sup with him, and he with me. To him that overcomes will I grant to sit with me in my throne, even as I have also overcame and am sat down with my Father in his throne. He that has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says unto the churches.
All right, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Which is peace on Yahweh's holy Sabbath day. Welcome to another holy convocation that Yahweh has enjoined unto us here in Stone Mountain, Georgia. As it is written, he that overcomes will I grant to sit down with me in my throne, as I am sat down with my Father in his throne, which entails that there are some things that we have to work through. There are some things that we have to work out. If we don't go through anything to do these things, and we have to conclude that it's not something that we really want. If Yahshua himself had to go through some things, and he is our king, he is a king of kings. We have Dawid, the natural king. You have Yahshua, the king of kings. And if our king and our king of kings has had to endure some things, how are we going to just waltz into that kingdom without going through anything, without making necessary changes, without dealing with some things that we don't want to deal with? I mean, we can get in this book and find that Yahshua says, Father, is there any other way? He tried to see if there was another way other than him having to suffer to redeem the children of Israel. And when his father said basically that there was no other way, then he said, all right, let's go ahead and get this over with. Knowing that he wasn't just going to have to die. We're talking about a God having to enter into the flesh that he created and then die as a man, but not just die. He was tortured. That's something altogether different. Dying can happen in an instant. Being tortured is something altogether different. So he automatically wanted to see if there was another path. There was not another path. This was something that he had to endure. So that's something that we have to consider when we deal with Yahweh being a covenant Elohim. He deals in covenants. So there will be times when it becomes more difficult to keep those covenants. And this is where the fight gets interesting. Do we give up. This is the whole part of enduring. You know, this is what what I mentioned last week about why people jump in and out of relationships. It's easier to go and make another covenant than to deal with all the things inside the covenant that you have. That means whatever mistakes have been made, whatever ups and downs have been made, you got to deal with those. So how some people avoid that is just by jumping to another covenant, thinking that it somehow releases them from the one that's still standing over there. So what we have to do is go through these things and look at the various ways that the children of Israel broke that covenant and understand the different aspects of how people got through that, so that when we get to a trying time, we don't consider walking away from that covenant that we made. There's a reason why before every baptism, there's a baptism conference. And whether or not some people, forget things, they cannot say that these things were not spoken unto them. Then a question is asked before anybody is dipped in that water. We are then entering into a covenant. And I don't think sometimes people fully understand the magnitude of that, although we've gone through all of those things before we perform that baptism, that you are entering into a covenant. We say when we are dealing with these things, we don't baptize you into a congregation. We baptize you into Yeshua's family. But I still don't think sometimes, the understanding of that is made, because even though Yeshua has a broad family, there's parts of that family. Even when you deal with the body, there's the foot, there's the hand, the fingernails can't decide it's gonna become a toenail. It ain't gonna fit. If your fingernails and your toenails are the same size, we gotta have a different conversation. They ain't supposed to fit right there. Then it's not performing the function that it was entered into the body to do. And if it's not performing that function, there has to be what? You either got to have a transplant. What they say, when your kidney don't work, they got to take that kidney out and go get another one. So you have to look, are you performing the function in which Yahweh brought you here to deal with? And if not, a transplant is in order. Because you can't keep having a kidney that don't function. You're going to have to get another kidney, or you're going to have to keep going to something and allow something else to do the job that the kidney is supposed to do. Because the body can't do without it. That function has to be completed somehow. And those are just the surface of the things when we're dealing with keeping covenant with Yahweh, our Elohim. Let's begin today's sermon in 1 Kings chapter 12. We had some questions in Bible study, and it led to a study about Samaria. So we went into a lot of these things, and I think sometimes, people also think when they ask a question sometimes that it can be answered in a one-liner. It might take 2.5 hours for you to fully grasp the answer to that question, because there are other aspects that if you don't understand those aspects, when the answer is given, you understand it, but on a level. That's one thing we have to know, that understanding always goes in levels. 1 Kings chapter 12, and let's start that at verse 1.
And Rehoboam went to Shechem, for all Israel were come to Shechem to make him king. And it came to pass, And Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, who was yet in Egypt, heard of it, for he was fled from the presence of King Shlomo, and Jeroboam dwelt in Egypt. That they sent and called him, and Jeroboam and all the congregation of Israel came and spake unto Rehoboam, saying, Your father made our yoke grievous. Now therefore make you the grievous service of your father, and his heavy yoke which he put upon us lighter, and we will serve you. And he said unto them, Depart you for 3 days, then come again to me. And the people departed.
Now, this was a righteous separation here. Depart from me for 3 days. All right. Sometimes, we get a question and we try to answer it right off. And there's certain things that you got to sit down and meditate upon. Don't feel like every question that's asked you that you have to deal with that. You can say, well, look, this is what comes to my mind at this point. But after I meditate upon that, that answer might be different. And if it is, I'll come to you. Go ahead.
And King Rehoboam consulted with the old men that stood before Shlomo his father while he yet lived.
Now, this is also a righteous step. He has given a pause. He has gone and found good counselors, exercised counselors. They know what they're talking about because they have done this job. Go ahead.
And said, How do you advise that I may answer this people? And they spake unto him, saying, If you will be a servant unto this people this day, and will serve them, and answer them, and speak good words to them, then they will be your servants forever. But he forsook the counsel of the old men which they had given him, and consulted with the young men that were grown up with him, and which stood before him.
Right. So it wasn't that something was wrong with the counsel that he received. He didn't like it. He wanted to get counsel from his friends. And we make the most common mistakes doing the same things. We want to listen to people who know even less than us. We're going to ask our friends. They have absolutely no idea. They don't know what they're talking about. And these are the people you go and ask. Go ahead.
And he said unto them, What counsel give you that we may answer this people who have spoken to me, saying, Make the yoke which your father did put upon us lighter? And the young men that were grown up with him spake unto him, saying, Thus shall you speak unto this people that spake unto you, saying, Your father made our yoke heavy, but make you it lighter unto us. Thus shall you say unto them, My little finger shall be thicker than my father's loins. And now, whereas my father did laid you with a heavy yoke, I will add to your yoke. My father has chastised you with whips, but I will chastise you with scorpions. So Jeroboam and all the people came to Rehoboam the 3rd day, as the king had appointed, saying, Come to me again the 3rd day.
Now you have to consider what happened during Shlomo's time. Understand all the building projects that were going on. Understand all the tribute that had to be paid for these building projects. Then you have building projects that didn't have nothing to do with Yahweh. And then you're going to be thicker than that? Go ahead.
And the king answered the people roughly, and forsook the old man's counsel that they gave him.
Right. They old. They don't understand. You know what I'm saying? They don't understand this new generation. See, that's what's wrong with them. They're old timers. Right. Go ahead.
And spake to them after the counsel of the young man, saying, My father made your yoke heavy, and I'll add to your yoke. My father also chastised you with whips, but I'll chastise you with scorpions. Wherefore the king hearkened not unto the people, for the cause was from Yahweh.
That's the part you have to understand. He didn't listen to the good counsel, but he clave to the bad counsel. And it was Yahweh's will that he clave to the bad counsel. See, a lot of bad decisions that we make, we still think it's us. No, it's Yahweh's judgment. That's why you made the bad decision. It wasn't your decision. It was Yahweh making sure that you get that punishment for the things that have taken place. This is coming forward from some things that was done way before this individual even thought about being in charge of anything. Now Yahweh is about to bring the judgment for the deeds that have been done. And when you are in charge of something, you take on the responsibility of everything surrounding it. Go ahead.
That he might perform his saying, which Yahweh spake by Ahiah the Shilonite, unto Jeroboam the son of Nebat. So when all Israel saw that the king hearkened not unto them, the people answered the king, saying, What portion have we in Dawid? Neither have we inheritance in the son of Jesse. To your tents, O Israel, now see to your own house, Dawid. So Israel departed unto their tents. But as for the children of Israel which dwelt in the cities of Yehudah, Rehoboam reigned over them. Then King Rehoboam sent Adoram, who was over the tribute, and all Israel stoned him with stones.
Remember now, all of these building projects, all of these things, the people paid tribute, which is a tax. Okay? They paying taxes to have all these great, magnificent buildings built. And then he says, I'm going to be even heavier than that. So this is not just a thing that he sent the man over the tribute and then they stoned him. Understand what the heaviness that was on these people. They paying for these buildings. Go ahead.
That he died. Therefore King Rehoboam made speed to get him up to his chariot, to flee to Jerusalem. So Israel rebelled against the house of Dawid unto this day. And it came to pass, when all Israel heard that Jeroboam was come again, that they sent and called him unto the congregation, and made him king over all Israel. There was none that followed the house of Dawid, but the tribe of Yehudah only. And when Rehoboam was come to Jerusalem, he assembled all the house of Yehudah, with the tribe of Benjamin, 180,000 chosen men, which were warriors, to fight against the house of Israel, to bring the kingdom again to Rehoboam, the son of Shlomo. But the word of Elohim came on to Shemaiah, the man of El, saying, Speak unto Rehoboam, the son of Shlomo, king of Yehudah, and unto all the house of Yehudah and Benjamin, and to the remnant of the people, saying, Thus says Yahweh, You shall not go up, nor fight against your brethren, the children of Israel. Return every man to his house, for this thing is from me.
Right. See, sometimes Yahweh lets his will be known in the beginning, and sometimes he lets his will be known at the end. They ready to go to war. They saying that these people are out of line. They're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. And then Yahweh got to speak up. No. No, don't go fight against them. I did this. Go ahead.
They hearkened therefore to the word of Yahweh, and returned to depart according to the word of Yah. Then Jeroboam built Shechem in Mount Ephraim, and dwelt therein, and went out from thence, and built Penuel. And Jeroboam said in his heart, Now shall the kingdom return to the house of Dawid. If this people go up to do sacrifice in the house of Yahweh at Jerusalem, then shall the heart of this people turn again unto their Adonai, even unto Rehoboam, king of Yehudah. And they shall kill me, and go again to Rehoboam, king of Yehudah.
So, because of his fear that they're going to leave, he now goes on a very wicked level to prepare some things. And sometimes this is things that we end up doing because of our own paranoia. And now this level, this thing cannot be turned back. Go ahead.
Whereupon the king took counsel, and made 2 calves of gold, and said unto them, It is too much for you to go up to Jerusalem.
Right. See, if you go to Jerusalem, to the real place, and keep worshiping, then you may follow the king over there. So I'm going to present a duplicate worship house. See? And if you worship in the duplicate worship house, then I ain't got to worry about your loyalty going to the other people of that house. Go ahead.
Behold your gods, O Israel, which brought you up out of the land of Egypt. And he set the one in Bethel, and the other put he in Dan. And this thing became a sin, for the people went to worship before the one, even unto Dan.
See, now it has become a sin because of this thing even being offered as a option unto the children of Israel. So presenting the option for Israel to have a duplicate worship place is a sin in itself. It has now become a problem to the people and the people who presented it. See, we had situations where people were trying to put together something to be done at their own home, and they wanted to do Bible studies and do all of these things, and they didn't really understand the magnitude of, if you present this and this is allowed, do you understand that that is presenting a competing house with Yahweh's house? Now, Yahweh has many places of worship. All of those people are designed and called into places where they are to go. But when you present something that, because at some point, if you present that option, there has to be somebody who's going to preside over that. Well, now that he has presented a duplicate house, he has to then also produce duplicate priests. Now, how are these people ordained? Because they can't be ordained the regular way. They can't be from the same path, so they have to come from somewhere else. And I don't think people understood the depth of what that would have done had they been successful. This is why sometimes you have to step in and save people even from themselves. Even though they might be kicking and scratching the whole time you're trying to save them. They might be calling you dirty names the whole time you're trying to do it. But if they are successful in that thing, they are going to become the worst enemy to Yahweh ever. So you have to ask yourself a question. Are you going to fight for Israel? Or will Yahweh have to pull you aside and ask you, why you didn't speak up right here? Now surely I'm about to kill this person. But I need to talk to you. Why you didn't speak up? When you had the opportunity to deal with this, why you didn't deal with it? Now, if you didn't know it, you didn't know. But if something is presented to you in writing, you can't say you didn't know. Go ahead.
You know, and even with that, you know, it's like, when do people realize, why do I want to come over here if we already got an established place, which this is already being done? Why do I need to come here? And then you don't know the mindset, because when you look at Jeroboam, why you built 2 golden calves? Mm-hmm. You'd ask that question, but then what we don't realize is Jeroboam fled and was down in Egypt. And stayed in Egypt for a long time.
You start to see how people pick up the things that they do from the various places they have been, and what happened is they don't let those things go. They bring that along with them. Mm-hmm. So we're going to worship Yahweh, but we're going to bring the calves too. So when you look and you are a servant of Yahweh, or people say that they are a servant of Yahweh, and then you look right down the hall and see an Egyptian god on the wall. It's automatically a question now. So I know where you used to be, but why is it still there? That's the question. They was all in Egypt at one point. So why are the remnants of your past still portrayed on your wall? Then you haven't fully made that covenant. Go ahead.
I was just going to laugh, because for you and I, it's a joke, because to us, this was Egypt.
Exactly.
This building, this place we in was Egypt.
You got to explain that, bro.
When we first came here, we was taking classes under some Egyptologists, and there was statues all across the walls and pictures.
In every room.
A chessboard with all the different gods and everything. But when we acquired this building, we had to go through and get rid of all of that stuff. Didn't we keep something? We had a table that we kept back from them, and we kept putting something on it.
It kept breaking?
And then we had to realize, oh yeah, this ain't sanctified for the master's use.
And Yahweh kept kicking it down. I put my stuff on the table. I was like, what? Hey, man. I mean, we put something, the slightest thing. We put a napkin on the table. Bah! Table fall over. What the hell is wrong with this table? But then you look at the table is completely sturdy. So why the table keep falling over? I was like, man, this boy here lack understanding. I was like, we better move this before he knock me over. it's been this table the first couple times. Next time you don't come in here and it's gonna be me to the side. Hey, where am the sock? Oh yeah, we'll get rid of that. Yeah, move that table somewhere. Don't. We can't use that no more. But see, at some point, you have to understand that that is breaking the covenant of Yahweh your Elohim. Things has to have order. And for people who didn't grow up in a established family that had several levels of it, you learn. When Granddaddy came in, Granddaddy had a chair. Hey man, it was 40-year-old dudes that didn't sit in that chair. Every now and then, some little young 5-year-old go and jump in Big Daddy chair. And about 5 people grab him from different, they grab a foot, a hand, a head, a hair. Everybody grab him and move him out that chair. Nobody sits in Big Daddy chair. Well, you understand, nobody can sit in Yahweh's position. If you let anybody sit there, you have broken the covenant. Husband, wife, mother, father, daughter, nobody can sit in his seat. Go ahead.
Verse 31. And he made an house of high places and made priests of the lowest of the people.
See, once you create a duplicate house, you have to then find some teachers who are going to teach. And you got to grab whoever is available. Okay? And as you start grabbing what's available, you end up with what you end up with. Go ahead.
Which were not of the sons of Levi.
Uh-huh.
And Jeroboam ordained a feast in the 8th month, on the 15th day of the month, like onto the feast that is in Yehuda.
Now, people always ask, why y'all didn't keep Hanukkah? Why y'all didn't keep all you see where these feasts come from? So first you got a duplicate house, all right? Now you got the low priest of the Most High, okay? That don't even sound right coming out the same mouth, all right? Then you got strange holy days. See, because these are shindigs of togetherness. See, now they got to make their own shindigs of togetherness, because now you have to ask yourself a question though. You do understand that Levi is within this land of Israel right here. Levi is with them. So why did he have to go get priests of the Most Low? Because you know what they were going to do? Hey, man, that's not written in the book. No, we can't do that. No, you can't do that. Hey, he can't stand over there. Hey, why she got that on? Hey, why you over here? No, he couldn't call them because they were going to command order. And that was going to cause a problem with the people who don't like order. That's why you got to get the priests who the friends. See? Because that's what Levi was going to do. They was going to come up in there, kick them calves over, start knocking down all the stuff that he had set up. He already knew he couldn't use them. So right off the rip, he has not picked any of the true priests. But they right there, though. Go ahead.
And he offered upon the altar. So did he in Bethel, sacrificing unto the calves that he had made. And he placed in Bethel the priest of the high places which he had made. So he offered upon the altar which he had made in Bethel the 15th day of the 8th month, even in the month which he had devised of his own heart, and ordained a feast unto the children of Israel. And he offered upon the altar and burnt incense.
And he did these things that he made. Now, verse 29 is interesting because you'll have people saying, well, this is why, Dan was left out. In verse 29, it says he set up one in Bethel and the other he in Dan. And people say, oh, Dan got off into all other stuff. Did y'all miss that Bethel first? Did y'all miss that? So Dan would have got cut off, but not Bethel? What kind of sense that make? It was the other in Dan. The main one was in Bethel. But then we let people tell us that Dan is cut off because some things that Dan did. Every last one of the tribes of Israel did something. Brother, read that the note there.
1 Kings chapter 13 and verse 33. After this thing, Jeroboam returned not from his evil way, but made again of the lowest of the people priest of the high places.
So no matter what, he had to stay in that course. Even when some other things happened, he continued picking the people who would agree with him. Understand how this whole thing began. Instead of listening to true counsel, they want the counsel of their friends. Go ahead.
Whosoever would, he consecrated him, and he became one of the priests of the high places. And this thing became sin unto the house of Jeroboam, even to cut it off, and to destroy it from off the face of the earth.
Right. Listen, it became a sin unto the house of Jeroboam, even to cut it off. And this is why you have to stop some people from doing some things. If they succeed, it ends up cutting their whole house off. Now, here it is. You're fighting to keep them from doing something. And if they succeed, they're going to get their whole house cut off. But they still fighting you as you're trying to keep them from getting their house cut off. But that's what happened when a shepherd runs to go get a sheep out of the mouth of a lion. Sometimes you're trying to drag the sheep out of the mouth of a lion, and the sheep trying to go deeper into the mouth of the lion. The sheep running from you. Like, you do know he's trying to eat you, right? Brother, read the definition that we got here, because, of course, as we are going through all of these things, we are in the midst of all of our the celebration for their so-called New Year's. So let's read the definition or the writing that we have here for this January the 1st, their worship practices that they have engaged in and taught us. Go ahead.
Janus was the god of beginnings and transitions in Rome mythology.
Which is why Janus, the month is called January. It is named after Janus. Go ahead.
And presided over passages, doors, gates, and endings, as well as in transitional periods such as from war to peace. He was usually depicted as having two faces.
If you look on the left part of this graphic, you see a two-headed image. He looks into the past and into the future. This is what's really happening on what they call watch night service. Okay? This is what watch night service is all about. Go ahead.
He was usually depicted as having two faces looking at opposite ways, one towards the past and the other towards the future.
When they do the ritual of watch night, they tell you to turn around and look at the door. They count down to New Year's, and then they said, now turn around and look at your future. They do a mock ritual of keeping the worship of this pagan god. And these things happen in the Christian church. I didn't hear about Janus or the two-headed god. I didn't hear about that from anybody in the street. No thug or drug dealer explained Janus to me. It was a preacher that had me perform this ritual. Go ahead.
There was no equivalent of Janus in Greek mythology. As a god of beginnings and transitions both in literal and abstract ways, he was also responsible for motion, changes, and time. He was present in the beginning of the world, guarding the gates of heaven, and he also presided over the creation of religion, life, and even the gods.
He also presided over the creation of religion, life, and even the gods. So even though they worshiped many gods, he had to still be worshiped, and he had to be worshiped at New Year's Eve. Why? Because that is the ending of one year and the beginning of another. So he has to be celebrated in his highest form at that particular time. Go ahead.
He was probably considered the most important Roman god, and his name was the first to be mentioned in prayers.
You see that? Most important, the first to be mentioned. And he has to be dealt with in the first part of the year. The very first thing that you're going to deal with is going to be Janus. Go ahead.
regardless of which god the worshiper wanted to pray to. In one of the myths in which Janus played an important role, Romulus, one of the founders of Rome, kidnapped the Sabaean women, helped by his men. Janus saved the women by creating a volcanic hot spring which erupted and buried the kidnappers in the mixture of boiling water and volcanic ash. Source, GreekMythology.com.
Now, what you looking at is, the two brothers, Romulus, and I think the other one is Remus or whatever, being raised by the she-wolf. This is supposed to be the creators of Rome. See, this is all of this stuff that's mixed in here that our people then take hold of, but really don't understand all of what we're taking hold of. Okay, go ahead.
In 1740, Wesley started watch night services for the coal miners of the Kingswood area, offering this nocturnal worship as a godly alternative to spending their evenings in alehouses.
Stop. So, because this is how they worship this God, they all spent that time partying and getting drunk. Ale is beer. Okay? So they would spend their time in the beer houses drinking on this night. Watch night was then introduced as an alternative way to worship the two-headed God other than getting drunk. Because, nowadays, well, we in the church, we can't just get tore up from the floor up like we used to. So let's present an alternative to worshiping Janus in that way. So that's what it was. And understand, when you talk about Wesley, you're now dealing with the first Protestant movements. Okay? Understand what's going on. So once these things catch on, all the rest of the Protestant churches say, oh yeah, that's a good idea, because we notice all our people are out drinking that night. Let's change this up. Go ahead.
The watch night services consisted of singing, praying, exhorting, and preaching for a number of hours. Wesley meant to establish it as a monthly practice, always at full moon to keep the meeting well lit. In America, this service often supplanted times of traditional drunken revelry, like New Year's Eve and Christmas Eve.
Right. So then we understand that these things were given unto our people. And if you keep reading, you'll run into all of these things where they start talking about slaves did it to watch out. Everybody get a different version of the lie. Slaves did it because they was watching out for the freedom law and all this kind of mess. Everybody watching for something else. No. What they watching is the two-headed God and servicing that God, and they were given optional or other ways to do that very thing. Let's go to Numbers chapter 3. See, the adversary doesn't care how he convinces you to go against your covenant. And he's not above, he'll use anything and anybody to get you to step away from your covenant. And anything that you let into your heart, into your personal space, if it gets there and gets a foothold, the adversary will use it to get you to walk away from your covenant. Understand, the adversary knew not to come directly at man. So what did he do? Went to the woman. And in turn, her power was so strong, she was able to get him to walk against the agreement that was given unto him by his creator. And it was known. Did he say you must not eat from all? Surely. Now a whole nother understanding is offered. Surely you're going to have great understanding if you eat from this. Now, the very words of Yahweh has been twisted around. Why? Because a duplicate servant has now entered the realm. You got Yahweh talking. Then after that, somebody else talking. And once they talk like Yahweh, but it's just like-ish. See? He mentioned the same words, but with a twist. And he knew the word. He said, did he say you must not eat from all these? He knew what he said. He knew exactly what was said, and he knew exactly how to slightly turn it so that it wouldn't seem that bad. And look at all the destruction that it ended up causing. Just a slight change. Numbers chapter 3, and let's start that at verse 5.
And Yahweh spake unto Moshe, saying, bring the tribe of Levi near, and present them before Aaron the priest, that they may minister unto him. And they shall keep his charge and the charge of the whole congregation before the tabernacle of the congregation, to do the service of the tabernacle. And they shall keep all the instruments of the tabernacle of the congregation, and the charge of the children of Israel, to do the service of the tabernacle. And you shall give the Levites unto Aaron and to his sons. They are wholly given unto him out of all the children of Israel. And you shall appoint Aaron and his sons, and they shall wait on their priest office. And the stranger that comes near shall be put to death.
The stranger that comes near shall be put to death. So any duplicates that come near to dealing with these things are supposed to be killed. So when you allow those things to happen, you have to consider what the consequences could possibly be for allowing such things. Go ahead.
And Yahweh spake unto Moshe, saying, and I, behold, I have taken the Levites from among the children of Israel, instead of all the firstborn that opens the matrix among the children of Israel. Therefore the Levites shall be mine. Because all the firstborn are mine. For on the day that I have smote all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, I hallowed unto me all the firstborn in Israel, both man and beast. Mine shall they be. I am Yahweh.
Mine shall they be. I am Yahweh. He has then set forth this order of how things are supposed to go, so that when these things take a turn, there has to be no choice but collateral damage is going to follow. Let's go to 1 Kings chapter 16. First Kings chapter 16, and let's start that at verse 21.
Then were the people of Israel divided into two parts. Half of the people followed Tibni the son of Ginath, to make him king, and half followed Omri. But the people that followed Omri prevailed against the people that followed Tibni the son of Ginath. So Tibni died, and Omri reigned. In the 31st year of Asa, king of Yehuda, began Omri to reign over Israel, 12 years. 6 years reigned he in Tirzah.
So now you have the divided house of Israel. So that when we get to certain things that we read in the New Testament, you have to understand how gradually these things presented themselves. If there's a difference in doctrine, there's going to be a divided house. That's why the doctrine has to maintain. Whenever other forms of doctrine enter into the house, somebody has to come and deal with that other doctrine, or it's going to divide the house. It's only a matter of time. Go ahead.
And he bought the hill of Samaria of Shemer for 2 talents of silver, and built on the hill, and called the name of the city which he built after the name of Shemer, owner of the hill, Samaria.
Right. So when the question come about, are the Samaritans even Israel? Understand who purchased the land. Understand where the name comes from. Understand what's going on. And it's sad that once the division has gone on for so long, that now there's a question of whether or not they are even Israel. That shows you just how deep we get in separation. If you start researching certain things about Bibles and versions of things, you're going to start reading some things that say the Samaritan copy. And if you don't understand that they are Israel, you start asking yourself, why the hell is there a Samaritan copy of the Bible? What the hell they got a copy for? Israel. You got Judah over here. You have Israel over here. They have their own writing. Now, of course, understanding where Israel got off into, you may want to look at that Samaritan copy very interestingly, because you don't know if they altered theirs to deal with all the other things that they invited into their circle. Go ahead.
Verse 25. 1 Kings chapter 16 and verse 25. But Omri wrought evil in the eyes of Yahweh, and did worse than all that were before him. For he walked in all the way of Jeroboam the son of Nebat, and in his sin wherewith he made Israel to sin, to provoke Yahweh El of Israel to anger with their vanities. Now the rest of the acts of Omri which he did, and his might that he showed, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Israel? So Omri slept with his fathers, and was buried in Samaria. And Ahab his son reigned in his stead. And in the 38th year of Asa king of Yehudah began Ahab the son of Omri to reign over Israel. And Ahab the son of Omri reigned over Israel in Samaria 22 years. And Ahab the son of Omri did evil in the sight of Yahweh above all that were before him. And it came to pass, as if it had been a light thing for him to walk in the sins of Jeroboam the son of Nebat, that he took to wife Jezebel, the daughter of Ethbaal, king of the Zidonians, and went and served Baal and worshipped him.
Right. Now, we read all about this stuff that Israel is doing, yet somebody will come and tell us that Dan is cut off. What book y'all read? How y'all get to Dan? How all of a sudden Dan stuff gets put to the forefront? Go ahead.
And he reared up an altar for Baal in the house of Baal, which he had built in Samaria. And Ahab made a grove, and Ahab did more to provoke Yahweh El of Israel to anger than all the kings of Israel that were before him. In his days did Hiel, the Bethelite, build Jericho. He laid the foundation thereof in Abiram, his firstborn, and set up the gates thereof in his youngest son Segub, according to the word of Yahweh, which he spake by Yahshua the son of Nun.
Right. Let's go to Yohanan, John chapter 4, because we want to just get these few words here and explain each one of these things, because a lot of times, we'll go in the book and we'll read, and that particular part may not seem like a part that we need to research, because it's not necessarily the thing that we're going to deal with. So Yohanan chapter 4, and let's read verses 4 and 5.
And he must needs go through Samaria. Then comes he to a city of Samaria, which is called Sychar, near to the parcel of the ground that Jacob gave to his son Joseph.
So then, as we start dealing with these areas and their location to one another, we have to start looking at where all of these things come from. Read the definition of Samaria.
From H8111, Shamaran, from the active participle of watch station. Shamaran, a place in Palestine, Samaria.
All right, read the next definition.
Samaria, Hebrew, Shamaran, Samaria was situated on an agreeable and fertile hill in the tribe of Ephraim, 12 miles from Dothan and 4 from Atharoth, according to Eusebius, and 1 day's journey from Jerusalem, according to Josephus.
All right, so then understanding that layout, let's go to Genesis chapter 33. So it's like one of those things where some of the things, like as our people were in like Goshen and all of those places, there was a lot of times that we were sitting in our own land. Israel's land is from the Nile to the Euphrates. And I don't think we like really grasp what that means. There's about 4 or 5 countries that's going to have to give up a piece of what they call their land. Do you understand? It's about to be some things that's going to have to go down for that. We keep looking at Israel in this one thing and the little sliver of land that is called Israel right now. Oh no, y'all are going to have to take care of some business to make 4 or 5 countries. All right, now you give up this, you give up that. They ain't just giving that up. You know how it works. The longer we hold something, the more we think it's ours. Now we can know we got it by, ill-gotten means, but the longer we hold it, the more attached we feel to that particular thing. It's no different than when David told the men of Israel, yeah, bring me Saul's daughter, my wife, that I purchased to me for 100 foreskins of the Philistines. There's somebody else that got attached to it, but he paid a heavy price for a bride price. No, you better bring me my wife. Hey, don't I shall see your face no more unless you bring my wife with you. And what? They let the dude follow behind crying for a little while. But sooner or later they had to tell him, go home. Go home, bro. First of all, you don't want to be there when we deliver this woman to him. Okay? Trust me. You don't want to be there. That's a killer. You don't want to be there. It's probably in your best interest that you don't keep walking with us. You don't want the killer to see, oh, this who she been with right here? This him right here? You talking about buddy right there? No, man. You don't want to walk this walk. You can turn, go home now. Because you think you're crying now. Go ahead, brother. Genesis chapter 33, and let's start that at verse 1.
And Jacob lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, Esau came, and with him 400 men. And he divided the children unto Leah, and unto Rachel, and unto the 2 handmaids. And he put the handmaids and their children foremost, and Leah and her children after, and Rachel and Joseph hindermost. And he passed over before them, and bowed himself to the ground 7 times, until he came near to his brother.
Now, he knows that there is a big rift between him and his brother. He knows that there is a situation here. So, in case his brother flips out and tries to kill his family, he has divided his family in a way that if the first part gets killed, the other ones get to get away. See, this is thinking, all right? So he won't be able to kill all his family at the same time. Once he attacks one, the next wave gets to understand about that, and they get an opportunity to flee. Because he knows the anger of his brother is hot. He doesn't know how time has dealt with his brother's anger. And do understand, you hear so many people, especially people who have indignation with the God of Israel, they'll tell you how, Jacob stole the land and Jacob did this and he was just wrong. And you get all the way down to that, and it was of Yahweh, every bit of it. But see, people have indignation with Yahweh because they don't really like what he does or how he does what he does. But when the earth and the fullness therein belongs to you, you get to do whatever the hell you want. Don't nobody tell you what music you play when you get in your car. That's your damn car. Go ahead.
And Esau ran to meet him, and embraced him, and fell on his neck, and kissed him, and they wept. And he lifted up his eyes, and saw the women and the children. And he said, Who are those with you? And he said, the children which Elohim has graciously given your servant. Then the handmaids came near, they and their children, and they bowed themselves. And Leah also with her children came near and bowed themselves. And after came Yosef near and Rachel, and they bowed themselves. And he said, What meaneth you by all this drove which I met? And he said, These are to find grace in the sight of my master. And Esau said, I have enough. My brother, keep that you have unto yourself. And Jacob said, No, I pray you, if now I have found grace in your sight, then receive my present at my hand. For therefore I have seen your face as though I had seen the face of El, and you was pleased with me. Take, I pray you, my blessing that is brought to you, because Elohim has dealt graciously with me, and because I have enough. And he urged him, and he took it.
And how many people would have just said after he offered, and he said, No, I got enough. Okay then. And took all their stuff back. No. I need for you to take this, because he may feel some other kind of way in about 2 days from now. No, he urged him. No, please take this blessing that I want to give to you. He worked for this. Go ahead.
And he said, Let us take our journey, and let us go, and I'll go before you. And he said unto him, My master knows that the children are tender, and the flocks and herds with young are with me. And if men should overdrive them one day, all the flock will die. Let my master, I pray you, pass over before his servant, and I'll lead on softly, according as the cattle that goes before me and the children be able to endure, until I come unto my master, unto Seir. And Esau said, Let me now leave with you some of the flock that are with me.
Some of the folk.
That are with me. And he said, What needeth it? Let me find grace in the sight of my master. So Esau returned that day on his way unto Seir. And Jacob journeyed to Succoth, and built him an house, and made booths for his cattle. Therefore the name of this place is called Succoth. And Jacob came to Shalem, a city of Sychem, which is in the land of Canaan, when he came from Padam Aram, and pitched his tent before the city. And he bought a parcel of a field where he had spread his tent, at the hand of the children of Hamor, Shechem's father, for 100 pieces of money. And he erected there an altar, and called it El Elohi Yisrael.
Right. So then you find that these places are then overlapping as things are happening. You find that Yahweh has already ordained those places. So you end up at a place thinking that it's an accident, and it is exactly what was set up way before you was even thought of as an individual. As Kish was saying earlier, we came here to do one thing, only to find out we ended up doing something else. And we had to take all them Egyptian gods. They had Egyptian gods on every wall, in every room. And you have to look at the irony of why would Yahweh send some Israelites to a place of Egyptologists to build a congregation out of that place. You have to look at, Yahweh had to be laughing the whole time he was sending us here. Like he got the joke and he knew we didn't get the joke. Because we're not trying to get the building, okay? That's not even why we were here. Then we didn't think we could afford any building. Yahweh is doing things and he don't tell you everything he's doing. A master don't have to tell his servant every step of what he's doing. And if you don't get that, you are going to be a horrible servant. You think the master got to explain it? All right, son, now I'm finna breathe. Okay, son, I'm about to cough. Don't let it scare you. You gotta tell me? If you think that the master got to explain everything he doing to you, I'm telling you right now, you're a horrible servant. And you're gonna be a horrible servant. He's not explaining everything to you. And if that's what you're waiting on, you're gonna be a horrible servant. Because he wasting precious time having to explain everything to you. So here it is, they end up in places that's already done been decided many generations before. And they just think, my God, that's peculiar. Wow, Yeah, isn't this the same places? It's the same hill. Wow. Right. You're right where you're supposed to be. But ain't nobody got time to be trying to explain everything to you. Go ahead, bro. Let's go to, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, and the funny thing is we don't ever want to go through anything, but just like we can see our forefathers went through these lands and endured harsh treatments just to eventually get it. Bro, we went through that in this building. Because they knew our culture.
Yeah.
And we went through it with them saying smart stuff and laughing under their breath and laughing in our face while they saying it. Just not knowing that, hey, y'all go ahead and endure, man. I got something for you.
And what's interesting as you say that, this is where a man had to learn how to be a man. And a man has to separate himself from the feelings of his wife. His wife and mine was at that lobby getting the hell out of this building. Because they had done pissed both of them off. Yes, they did. Now, what happened if we some old henpecked dude and we walking around behind them? Yeah, baby, we going with you. What happened? We've been walked away from our building trying to follow the hen. I mean, pissed both, and I'm not telling you they were wrong. Pissed both of them off. And I'm pretty sure they did it on purpose to tick both of them off. But hey, went to the lobby. You go ahead. I got business to tend to here. You go ahead. This is when a man have to be a man. And if a man ain't gonna decide that he gonna be a man, put a dress on and go sit in the other damn room. Read, man.
That was it.
Let's go to Joshua chapter 24.
No, wait, hold on.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay.
You finished that? Yeah, we could have caught feelings with them. And we'd have walked away from the blessing that Yahweh was trying to give us. We could have caught them same feelings. We could have been in the lobby feeling they feelings. Oh, let me feel them feelings with you, baby. Oh, tell me more about your feelings. Oh, Hercules. Yeah, we could have done that. But you know what that devil did? The devil went to the part of the house that he could affect the easiest. And then he tried to use that part to affect us. He was trying to make us walk away from our blessing because Lucifer knew what Yahweh was doing. We didn't know. Joshua chapter 24, and let's start that at verse 1.
And Joshua gathered all the tribes of Israel to Shechem and called for the elders of Israel and for their heads and for their judges and for their officers, and they presented themselves before Elohim. And Joshua said unto all the people, Thus says Yahweh El of Israel, Your fathers dwelt on the other side of the flood in old time, even Terah, the father of Abraham, and the father of Nachor, and they served other gods.
Right. See, there's a separation that Yahweh calls between their fathers because they worshiped other gods. But do we turn around? We gonna try to drag everybody from our family into this, and some of them believe on the surface. They believe a level of it. But point blank, it was already known. Your fathers worshiped other gods. So even before dealing with Abram, he knew, I need to separate you from your father. Once the father passes away, then I have an opportunity to talk to you. But the problem is, what was going to happen if he did that while the father was alive? Every time he tried to deal with something with Abraham, he come to daddy renegotiating that. And now he's now competing. Now there's a competing voice. Do I listen to Yahweh or do I listen to my father? And he greatly respects his father. So Yahweh just protected him from that. I'm not even going to enter into this level of covenant with you while he's alive. That's grace. I'm not even going to let you argue. All us ain't going to be given that kind of grace. Are you man enough or woman enough or Hebrew Israelite enough to deal with what you're supposed to deal with, even when it's not popular in your surroundings. Right. Go ahead, bro.
Verse 3. And I took your father Abraham from the other side of the flood, and led him throughout all the land of Canaan, and multiplied his seed, and gave him Esau. And I gave unto Esau Jacob and Esau, and I gave unto Esau Mount Seir, to possess it. But Jacob and his children went down into Egypt. I sent Moshe also and Aaron, and I plagued Egypt, according to that which I did among them, and afterward I brought you out. And I brought your fathers out of Egypt, and you came onto the sea, and the Egyptians pursued after your fathers with chariots and horsemen onto the Red Sea. And when they cried unto Yahweh, he put darkness between you and the Egyptians, and brought the sea upon them, and covered them. And your eyes have seen what I have done in Egypt, and you dwelt in the wilderness a long season. And I brought you into the land of the Amorites, which dwelt on the other side Jordan, and they fought with you, and I gave them into your hand, that you might possess their land, and I destroyed them from before you. Then Balak the son of Zippor, king of Moab, arose and warred against Israel, and sent and called Balaam the son of Beor to curse you. But I would not hearken unto Balaam, therefore he blessed you still, so I delivered you out of his hand. And you went over Jordan, and came unto Jericho, and the men of Jericho fought against you, the Amorites, and the Perizzites, and the Canaanites, and the Hittites, and the Girgashites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites, and I delivered them into your hand. And I sent the hornet before you, which drave them out from before you, even the 2 kings of the Amorites, but not with your sword, nor with your bow. And I have given you a land for which you did not labor.
I have given you a land for which you did not labor. See, Yahweh ends up working on things where you think it is some unprofitable time. If you deal with the things that Yahweh needs you to deal with, he got somebody else already building your stuff. But see, we trying to be so slick and we got to be in charge of everything. We got to build our own. So then what we start doing is stop dealing with Yahweh's business. And then we put all that time in dealing with our own and it still ain't together. No matter how much time we put in it, it still ain't together. Had we taken care of Yahweh's business, he would have already had somebody put that together. While we were taking care of Yahweh's business, he had somebody else working on this building for us. We taking care of Yahweh's business. We on our way here to do something else. Somebody else done took care of this place for us. And it dropped directly in our lap. Wasn't looking. We decided, you know what, let's just inquire about something. And it's even interested in how that went. Because we were inquiring about a lower place downstairs. He said, no. I'm going to give you the main one up front. For the price that you would have been downstairs. Interesting. Read, bro.
And cities which you built not, and you dwell in them. Of the vineyards and olive yards which you planted not, do you eat. Now therefore fear Yahweh, and serve him in sincerity and in truth. And put away the gods which your fathers served on the other side of the flood, and in Egypt, and serve you Yah. And if it seem evil unto you to serve Yah, choose you this day whom you will serve, whether the gods which your fathers served that were on the other side of the flood, or the gods of the Amorites.
Your choice. Choose you this day who you're going to serve. If it seems evil unto you to serve Yahweh, you have to first of all figure out what would be in your heart that it feels evil to serve Yahweh. Because something got to be in there. And if that's in there, go ahead and do what you got to do. Go ahead.
In whose land you dwell. But as for me and my house, we will serve Yahweh.
As for me and my house, everybody got to make that determination on their own. And when you make that determination, that means there's certain things that ain't going to enter within your doors. That means there's certain things that when it enter, it's going to be dealt with when it enter into those doors. But as for me and my house. See, you'll find a lot of people that have those kind of plaques on their wall. But it's for me and my house. It becomes a nice little phrase that people don't even understand. But it makes a pretty little plaque. They don't understand what all that means. But as for me and my house, that means when it come in here and it ain't right, it's going to get right or it's going to get up out of him. That's what that means. And that's how we have to deal with Yahweh's house. Either it's going to do what it's supposed to do or it's going to get on the other side of that door. And are you Hebrew enough to make that happen? Go ahead.
And the people answered and said, Elohim forbid that we should forsake Yahweh to serve other gods. For Yahweh our El, he it is that brought us up and our fathers out of the land of Egypt.
He it is that brought us up. But as soon as we get amongst other people, what the king of Israel say? He made the two calves. Here go your gods, Israel. Now, how is he able to do that unless those people's heart was somewhere else? Because you can't offer people who don't believe that thought process. You can only offer that to people who believe that. They couldn't go amongst Yehuda and offer two calves and say, here go your gods. They would have died before they were finished making them. They're like, hey, does that look like a cow? Give me my sword. No, give it the pretty one. No, they want to kill him regally. Oh no, they would took care of that business. They wouldn't even been able to finish that. Go ahead.
From the house of bondage, and which did those great things in our sight, and preserved us in all the way wherein we went, and among all the people throughout whom we passed. And Yahweh drave out from before us all the people, even the Amorites which dwelt in the land. Therefore will we also serve Yahweh, for he is our Elohim.
Now, they understand at this point that Yahweh drave them out. But do we start to get to a point where we believe that we've done it with our own hands? And now, if we believe that we've done it with our own hands, how much glory is Yahweh getting? What's happening is the glory of Yahweh is decreasing because we believe that we did this. So this is a part where Yahweh's work is becoming more and more regular. Just like they said, we all holy. And Yahweh had to come in there and take care of that business. Oh, we all holy? We all us? Every one of us? Really? Go ahead.
And Yahshua said unto the people, you cannot serve Yahweh, for he is an holy El. He is a jealous El. He will not forgive your transgressions nor your sins. If you forsake Yahweh and serve strange gods, then he will turn and do you hurt and consume you. After that, he has done you good.
After he has done you good. If you turn away from Yahweh, he will take all the good and put all the power that he had done good unto you and turn it around and do evil unto you. And it'll be your own doing. This is why it says, if your own mother, your father, the wife of your bosom convince you to go away from Elohim and serve other gods, he said, kill them while they stand. But do we have that in us? No, because we listen to every damn thing. We let everybody talk and we listen. What'd you say? Say that again. There's certain sentences that shouldn't even be finished. Stop talking now. Because see, there's less you got to go into judgment for. Stop talking right now. And the answer is no. Go ahead.
And the people said unto Yahshua, no, but we will serve Yahweh. And Yahshua said unto the people, you are witnesses against yourselves that you have chosen you, Yahweh, to serve him. And they said, we are witnesses. Now therefore put away, said he, the strange gods which are among you, and incline your heart unto Yahweh, El of Israel. And the people said unto Yahshua, Yahweh our El will we serve, and his voice will we obey. So Yahshua made a covenant with the people that day, and set them a statute and an ordinance in Shechem. And Yahshua wrote those words in the book of the law of El, and took a great stone and set it up there under an oak that was by the sanctuary of Yahweh. And Yahshua said unto all the people, behold, this stone shall be a witness unto us, for it has heard all the words of Yahweh, which he spake unto us. It shall be therefore a witness unto you, lest you deny your Elohim. So Yahshua let the people depart, every man unto his inheritance. And it came to pass after these things that Joshua the son of Nun, the servant of Yahweh, died, being 110 years old. And they buried him in the border of his inheritance in Timnath-serah, which is in Mount Ephraim, on the north side of the hill of Gaash. And Israel served Yahweh all the days of Joshua, and all the days of the elders that overlived Joshua, and which had known all the works of Yahweh that he had done for Israel. And the bones of Joseph, which the children of Israel brought up out of Egypt, buried they in Shechem, in a parcel of ground which Yaakov bought of the sons of Hamor the father of Shechem for 100 pieces of silver. And it became the inheritance of the children of Joseph.
Right. The very things that you read in the New Testament when we go back and we start hearing of all of these things. So we then go back in our Old Testament and we can find the history of all of those things so that we can see that they connect with one another. We can see that there is a connection with all of those things. And when you're talking about enduring, think about that our people are buying pieces of land in land that's theirs. Imagine if somebody asked you to buy your bathroom. You talking about, you know I put that toilet seat on there, right? I mean, you want me to buy my bathroom? It's already mine. You can't get no deeper than enduring when you got to buy your own stuff. Yahweh tells you the stuff is yours, yet you buy a piece of land in your land. That's also humbling because it's going to be a couple hundred years before your folk even set foot on the promise that he has given. And still not owning it yet, just setting foot on it. Go ahead.
And Eleazar the son of Aaron died, and they buried him in a hill that pertained to Phinehas his son, which was given him in Mount Ephraim.
All right, let's go to Joshua chapter 9. Joshua chapter 9, and we're going to start that at verse 1.
Verse 1. And it came to pass, when all the kings which were on this side Jordan, in the hills and in the valleys and in all the coast of the great sea over against Lebanon, the Hittite and the Amorite, the Canaanite, the Perizzite, the Hivite, and the Jebusite, heard thereof, that they gathered themselves together to fight with Joshua and with Israel with one accord. And when the inhabitants of Gibeon heard that Joshua had done And when the inhabitants of Gibeon heard what Joshua had done unto Jericho and unto Ai, they did work willily, and went and made as if they had been ambassadors, and took old sacks upon their asses, and wine bottles, old and rent and bound up, and old shoes and clouded upon their feet, and old garments upon them, and all the bread of their provision was dry and moldy. And they went to Joshua unto the camp at Gilgal, and said unto him, and to the men of Israel, We be come from a far country, now therefore make you a league with us. And the men of Israel said unto the Hivites, Peradventure you dwell among us, and how shall we make a league with you? And they said unto Joshua, We are your servants.
So you always pay attention to what happens. This is deception, and here is the lie. When we look in the law, it says that the judgment for a lie is whatever you intended to happen with the lie. So what's happening, the very words that they are speaking becomes their judgment, because they are pretending to be a different people so that they are not destroyed when the armies of Israel come through. So they are speaking their own judgment. This is why it says, let your words be yea and nay. Anything after that comes of sin. So they talking, and the very words that they speaking are the ones Yahweh gonna use. Same thing he did to us. You gonna bring us out in this land, our kids are gonna be destroyed out here. Yahweh, stop talking. I tell you what, you gonna die, but I'm gonna bring the kids through. Them the ones you claim that you protecting. Them the ones you say you doing all this for. Them the ones you say, right? Watch I bring them and you die here. Oh, yeah. Yahweh take your very words and use them very words. Them words that we speaking when we feel some kind of way, he take them same words and use them against you. Go ahead.
And Yahshua said unto them, Who are you? And from whence come you? And they said unto him, From a very far country your servants are come because of the name of Yahweh your El. For we have heard the fame of him and all that he did in Egypt.
And they did hear that. They did hear that. They heard about that destruction. And they want to be on the other side. They want to be, look, I don't want to be in a winning team. Y'all got some leftover Israel jerseys over there or something. I won't put that jersey on. Go ahead.
And all that he did to the 2 kings of the Amorites that were beyond Jordan, to Sihon king of Heshbon, and to Og king of Bashan, which was at Ashtaroth. Wherefore our elders and all the inhabitants of our country spake to us, saying, Take victuals with you for the journey, and go to meet them, and say unto them, We are your servants. Therefore now make you a league with us. This our bread we took hot for our provision out of our houses on the day we came forth to go on to you. But now, behold, it is dry, and it is moldy. And these bottles of wine which we filled were new, and, behold, they be rent. And these our garments and our shoes are become old by reason of the very long journey.
Right. So they had to pick out who gonna be the slick dudes who gonna go and present this lie unto Israel. First of all, it was dangerous because you don't know how they gonna, accept you. Then you making a journey with old wine and moldy bread. So at the point they get close, they must have had to throw away the good bread. Because they had to eat. Go ahead.
And the men took of their victuals, and asked not counsel at the mouth of Yah.
Stop. Ask not counsel at the mouth of Yahweh. What happened? They let their emotions take over. The biggest thing that you find is men always believe that they don't have emotions. It's the biggest lie ever known to man, that we don't have emotions. No, we deal with our emotions differently than women, but we damn sure got them. Matter of fact, everything that she got from you because woman was made out of man. So, emotions is about what? Your senses. They looked and they heard. And now they have already dealt with these things, but they have not answered counsel to Yahweh. See, that's the part that people always missing. See, you can look at something, you can examine something, you can even talk to the people. People will tell you whatever the hell they want to tell you. Where was your counsel to Yahweh? Where was that question? Because you can ask all the things. You can make diligent inquiry and talk to 4 or 5 different people, and every last one of them tell you their version. Because what happens with people, what's important to each individual is what happened to them. They may not be purposely attempting to lie. It just ain't important to them what happened to you. Yeah, man, the thing came through and it knocked and it hit my foot. What happened to Eli? I don't know. That brother's whole foot turned around. You didn't see that? No, because it wasn't important to them. What was important to them was what happened to them. They didn't see nothing what happened to nobody else. And you can still get that through diligent inquiry. The problem is people just don't care about what happened to other people. So your biggest inquiry needs to be to your Elohim. That's where we drop off. Go ahead.
Verse 15. And Yahshua made peace with them, and made a league with them, to let them live. And the princes of the congregation swear unto them.
And Yahshua made peace with them. Now, Yahweh's still in the mix. Even when Yahweh allows you to fall, there's something in the fall. Go ahead.
And it came to pass at the end of 3 days, after they had made a league with them, that they heard that they were their neighbors, and that they dwelt among them.
Why was it 3 days? You realize that even today, if a contract is signed, you got 3 days to back out that contract. You know, 3 days you can act like that ain't happened. That's why a lot of times when people come and agree to do something or work on the house, you ever notice they won't do it that day? And they got all the tools right there to do it. Because then people can call back 2 days later and say, I'm not happy with this. And now that person got to uninstall everything they did just put on that house. And that's at their cost. 3 days, this agreement is sealed. It's already sealed when they agreed to it. But all they had to do was to wait on Yahweh 3 days. Ask Yahweh and just say, stand here. Let us see what thus says Yahweh our Elohim. Go ahead.
And the children of Israel journeyed and came on to their cities on the 3rd day. Now their cities were Gibeon and Shiphrah and Beeroth and Kiriath Yearim.
Right. Now, these very cities here will also belong to the Benjamites, which King Saul is a Benjamite. So you're going to see what ends up happening later on. Go ahead.
And the children of Israel smote them not, because the princes of the congregation had sworn unto them by Yahweh, El of Israel, and all the congregation murmured against the princes.
So the congregation got indignation at this point. But they say, hey, we've made an agreement. We have promised them. Okay? Now we're going to deal with them according to the promise that we made. Well, what I find interesting is when people enter into covenants without any stipulations, then come back and try to show you the reasons why they didn't keep their covenant. Ain't no need of trying to send copies of text to try to explain why you ain't took care of your children. There ain't no text in the world that you can send that explain why you ain't took care of your kids. Go ahead, bro.
But all the princes said unto all the congregation, we have sworn unto them by Yahweh, El of Israel. Now therefore we may not touch them.
Therefore we may not touch them, because we have entered into this covenant and it is what it is. So let's deal with it. Yahshua got to endure, but we ain't got to endure nothing. So we want to be servants of Yahweh when it all works for us. But as soon as it's a hill to climb, we out. And everybody see it when that's how you operate. I watch the brothers in here play games when they know them brothers who don't like to clean up. They would just mention, hey man, it's time to clean, and watch the brothers get up and go, and they all start laughing. They toying with the brother. They wasn't even about to clean. They just wanted to see him run. Everybody know who you are. Somebody just go pick up the vacuum and watch somebody run. They all laughing at you. Go ahead, bro.
This we will do to them. We will even let them live, lest wrath be upon us.
We will let them live, lest wrath be upon us, because now we cannot give an excuse for why we're going to break this covenant. Go ahead.
Because of the oath which we swear unto them.
Uh-huh.
And the princes said unto them, let them live, but let them be hewers of wood and drawers of water unto all the congregation, as the princes had promised them.
So, this is how Yahweh has developed temple servants. They're going to go and do all of these things to be servants to the temple. So you got the Levites, and then you have the young Levites, then you have the servants that are not Levites at all. So even the servants got servants. Go ahead.
And Yahshua called for them, and he spake unto them, saying, wherefore have you beguiled us, saying, we are very far from you, when you dwell among us?
Beguiled. That's interesting. Go ahead.
Now therefore you are cursed, and there shall none of you be freed from being bondmen.
None of you shall be freed from being bondmen. See, this is when you get in the book of Ezra and Nehemiah, and they're looking for those finding their lineage. There's a whole group of people that they can't find their lineage of where their father is in that lineage because they are the descendants of those servants. But they work close hand with those of the temple. But they wouldn't let them be priests. They said, we can't find y'all name in here. Go ahead.
And hewers of wood and drawers of water for the house of Mael. And they answered Yahshua and said, because it was certainly told your servants how that Yahweh your El commanded his servant Moshe to give you all the land and to destroy all the inhabitants of the land from before you, therefore we were sore afraid of our lives because of you, and have done this thing. And now, behold, we are in your hand, as it seemed good and right unto you to do, unto us
now,
to do.
If we do wrong, do we do that? We'll turn around and do wrong, and then when somebody, catch it's that person's fault. What you even doing up this time of night to even catch me doing that? It's your fault. If you wouldn't have been up, you wouldn't have seen it. Are you kidding me right now? You playing, right? Go ahead.
And so did he unto them, and delivered them out of the hand of the children of Israel, that they slew them not. And Yahshua made them that day hewers of wood and drawers of water for the congregation, and for the altar of Yahweh, even unto this day, in the place which he should choose.
All right. So then we find, when we look, these things of where this land, it says in verse 17, in the middle, now these cities were Gibeon, Shiphrah, Beeroth, and Kirjath Yearim. All right, now let's go to 2 Samuel chapter 21, and let us hear the conclusion of this matter. So any bathroom trips, this would be, let's see, 2 Samuel. Second Samuel 21, and let's start that at verse 1.
Then there was a famine in the days of Dawid 3 years.
3 years now. So you got these servants that are perpetually among Israel. Okay, so now there's a famine in the days of Dawid. Go ahead.
Year after year. And Dawid inquired of Yahweh, and Yahweh answered, it is for Saul and for his bloody house, because he slew the Gibeonites.
Check this out. So now you have these people. We made an oath not to slay these people. Generations later, here come a disorderly king who just want to do whatever the hell he want to do. Now he has slain them. Now he wasn't alive when these covenants or these agreements was made, but he broke them. Now the next king is having to deal with the broken covenant. He didn't even break the covenant. See, when you sit in the seat, you take responsibility for everything in the seat. See, this is what brothers have to understand about being the head of a house. No matter what happens, Yahweh gonna pull you to the side. Here it is, he's having to deal with some things. He wasn't the one that did it, but it's happening in David's rulership. The king before him did it. The agreement wasn't made in either one of their lifetimes. The agreement was made way down here. You shall not touch them. We have made an oath unto them. You shall not touch them. Now, Yahweh then plagues the children of Israel. But he don't tell. Check out how Yahweh deals with things. Before Yahweh brings forth judgment, he sends somebody to go and talk to those people, right? Yahweh has now sent a famine in this land, but he ain't said nothing to nobody. He waiting for them to come to him. So somebody has to inquire to Yahweh, what is this about? Go ahead.
You know, it's interesting even in that situation, because we know there's been times in Saul's rulership where Samuel went to Saul and said, well, what is the bleeding of this that I hear? Yahweh didn't even do it when he did it. Now it falls on Dawid. Why? Because he's a righteous man. Mm-hmm. He's going to take care of the business. we all got to sit and wonder how much stuff is coming upon us with the knowledge that we now have because of what our parents did.
Right. And he holds you responsible because they are not mentally or spiritually equipped to deal with it. He put it on your hands because you are. But what happened if you turn a blind eye? I don't see it. I don't hear it. I don't know what you're talking about. He holding you responsible. I made sure you was educated. I made sure you had understanding. So when you chose not to deal with it, it was exceedingly evil. Your folks didn't have the ability to deal with it. It's your job. Go ahead.
And the king called the Gibeonites and said unto them, Now the Gibeonites were not of the children of Israel, but of the remnant of the Amorites. And the children of Israel had sworn unto them, and Saul sought to slay them in his zeal to the children of Israel and Yehuda.
Right. So he gonna make a show unto them. I'm gonna show y'all how great I am. I'm gonna kill these people who we made the covenant with. And obviously he had started killing some of them. Now, how much of a king do it take to kill a bunch of people who really have no protection amongst you? Ain't you a big bad coward? Go over there and fight. Go over there and fight Goliath and them Philistines. He went running over there. David, you David, you go. Now I want you to go, big bad. But you gonna go and kill these people who we done made an agreement with, who have no ability to defend themselves. But you gonna go kill them. Punk. Read, man.
Wherefore David said unto the Gibeonites, What shall I do for you? And wherewith shall I make the atonement that you may bless the inheritance of Yahweh?
Stop. A stranger has the ability to bless Israel, but only after Israel does right about the covenant that they made. See, he knows that this famine is because we have done some wrong way back when. Because the other dude was king when this was done. I got to make this right so that Yahweh has peace unto my house. Now he got to go ask strangers, what can I do to fix this situation? You have suffered loss by the hands of my people. And it's amazing. People will say and do all kind of things and never come up to acknowledge it. He has to acknowledge this, and he has to acknowledge it publicly. See, this is that little slick thing we do. Well, we say a bunch of nasty stuff publicly, and then we pull the person aside and give them a private apology. It sucks, it stinks, and there's something wrong with that, and you can't blame nobody for not accepting it. He's got to publicly deal with this. Well, they publicly murdered. He can't privately deal with this situation. You have been wronged. And Yahweh, my Elohim, has turned away from me because of what has happened to you. Now tell me, what can I do that I can fix the pain in your heart that Yahweh will return unto me again? And people can't understand why Yahweh chose David. How many of us are still keep walking straight face? Shalom! Walk right past these people. Man, you know them people family got killed, right? You understand we're in the middle of a famine because of that. No, we'll sit there and starve to death, still proud, acting like we don't know what's going on. Go ahead.
And the Gibeonites said unto him, We will have no silver nor gold of Saul, nor of his house. Neither for us shall you kill any man in Israel. And he said, What you shall say, that will I do for you. And they answered the king, The man that consumed us, and that devised against us that we should be destroyed from remaining in any of the coast of Israel, let 7 men of his sons be delivered unto us, and we will hang them up unto Yahweh in Gibeah of Saul, whom Yahweh did choose. And the king said, I will give them.
Right. So then you have to look at this, how Yahweh is causing his actions to actually kill off the remaining part of his seed that will have a question to the throne. Go ahead.
But the king spared Mephibosheth, the son of Jonathan, the son of Saul, because of Yahweh's oath that was between them, between David and Jonathan, the son of Saul.
So now he's got to kill off these sons to appease a broken covenant over here, but then leave this son alive to keep the covenant he made with Jonathan. Only if we understood that Yahweh was a covenant Elohim, maybe we would try a little harder to keep our covenants. That's all that we're going to do for today. Remember the Sabbath to keep it holy. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.